You don't get viruses on Linux. You've probably heard that. Well, the Linux Mint team has reported 2 things that should make you reconsider. First, a vulnerability where a simple PDF could compromise your computer with a single click. Second, a network of fake websites that perfectly imitate official Linux Mint applications. Well, May 2026 was probably the most eventful month in recent Linux security history. 4 security vulnerabilities were discovered at the very core of the system, some of them having remained unnoticed for nearly 2 decades. In this video, I talk about real threats that show the weakest point in any system security isn't the software, it's you. The first important news comes from the security area, and it is a serious one. A critical vulnerability was discovered in Xreader, the default PDF and ebook document viewer in Linux Mint. A vulnerability is a security flaw that could allow someone with malicious intent to run harmful code on your computer. If you're not sure what that means, I'll explain it simply. It was enough for a seemingly harmless file to be opened and the system could be compromised. Not every PDF is dangerous, but a PDF specifically crafted by an attacker that exploited this vulnerability could do exactly that. The mechanism was relatively simple. You would open the PDF file in Xreader, and inside the document there was a link. If you clicked that link, the malicious code would execute automatically on your system. You don't need to download a suspicious file. You don't need to run a program with administrator privileges. You open a document, you click once, and that's it. The door is open. The good news is that the Linux Mint team responded quickly. The vulnerability was fixed in version 4.6.4 of Xreader. For those using older versions of the operating system who cannot upgrade to the latest Xreader, the patch was also backported to version 3.6.7. So no matter which version of Linux Mint you are using, there is an available update that fixes this issue. This is the perfect moment to emphasize something I never get tired of repeating. Security updates are not optional. Before we continue, if you're enjoying the content on this channel and would like to support the project, consider joining the membership. You'll get priority replies to your comments, member shoutouts, and other special benefits. Thank you for your support. Now let's move on to the second major topic, one that has also concerned me personally and that I believe many users underestimate. It's about a global campaign of impersonating open source projects. The Linux Mint team has warned about a worrying phenomenon. There are people creating fake websites that perfectly imitate the official sites of popular applications in the Linux world and beyond. Their goal? Money, but not necessarily your money directly, although that can also happen. They profit in several ways, generating web traffic for ads, selling your personal data to third parties, or in the worst case, infecting your computer with viruses or ransomware. The Mint team also gave 2 concrete examples that you can check yourself if you're curious: Warpinator.com and Hypnotix.org. Warpinator and Hypnotix are legitimate applications developed by the Linux Mint team itself, but these domains do not belong to the official project. They are registered by unknown individuals who rely on the fact that users will search for the app on Google, click the first result, and download whatever they find there. And guess what? That strategy works. That's why these sites continue to exist. Okay, but why can't anything be done? Why aren't these sites taken down? The frustratingly simple answer is you can't control what domains people register on the internet or what content they publish there. If a hosting provider that follows the rules takes a site down, it gets moved to another one. If a domain is taken down, another one is registered. It's a cat and mouse game that small open source teams don't have the resources to win. A full story article documents this phenomenon on a large scale. It's not something isolated, and it's not specific to Linux Mint. It's a systemic problem affecting dozens, maybe hundreds of popular open source projects. Attackers have noticed that the open source world attracts many new users who are less familiar with the ecosystem, and they exploit exactly this human vulnerability. In less than 30 days, security researchers discovered 4 serious vulnerabilities in the very core of Linux. They were given names that sound like action movies: Copyfail, Dirty Frag, Fragnesia, and SifSwitch. Before I go into the details, let me explain a term you'll hear often in this section: privilege escalation. When you use Linux, there are 2 types of users. There is the regular user, that's you, browsing the web, listening to music and writing documents, and there is the root user, who has complete control over the system and can install, delete, or modify anything. A regular user cannot become root without a password. Well, all 4 vulnerabilities below break that exact rule. An attacker who gains access to your computer as a regular user can exploit these flaws to take full control of the system without knowing any password. CopyFail was the first to be disclosed on the 29th of April 2026. To understand what happened, you need to know that the Linux kernel contains thousands of small components working together. One of them is responsible for data encryption. CopyFail was a flaw in that component, introduced into the system back in 2017 and left undetected for 9 years. On May 7 came Dirty Frag. If CopyFail was an error in an encryption component, Dirty Frag was located in the networking part of the kernel, the section responsible for communication between computers. The problem was that technical details were made public before Linux distribution maintainers had enough time to prepare patches. Next came Fragnesia, discovered on May 13, and it perhaps has the strangest origin of all 4 vulnerabilities. It was not found through independent research. Instead, it appeared as a side effect of a patch. Simply put, the team that fixed one of the Dirty Frag issues accidentally introduced a new vulnerability. Then, on May 28, CIF switch was disclosed. This vulnerability breaks all records for longevity. Researcher Asim Manizada demonstrated that the flaw had existed in the Linux kernel since 2007, a total of 19 years. In practice, a user with no special permissions could run a single command in the terminal and instantly become a fully privileged administrator. At this point, you might be wondering, am I at risk? If you use Linux Mint at home on your personal computer, where nobody else has access, the direct risk is lower. All of these vulnerabilities require the attacker to already have access to your system, either physically or through another method. There is one more thing worth mentioning, because it shows just how quickly the cybersecurity landscape is evolving. All 4 vulnerabilities were discovered with the help of artificial intelligence. Researchers used AI models to analyze kernel code and identify bugs that human reviewers might have missed. That's good news because it means security flaws can be found and fixed faster. But it is also something to think about, because the same tools are available to people with malicious intentions. The truly good news is that patches have been released for all 4 vulnerabilities. This brings me to the central point of today's discussion, something I want to emphasize as clearly as possible, especially for those who are new to the Linux world. Linux Mint, like any distribution based on Debian or Ubuntu, comes with a package management system and official repositories. These have existed since the early days of the Debian project in the 1990s. They are not something new and they are not complicated. They are simply the safest way to install software on Linux. When you install an application from the software manager, or by using apt install in the terminal, the package comes from an official repository digitally signed by the team that maintains it. There is a chain of trust. If someone tries to modify that package or inject malicious code, the system will detect that the signature does not match and will refuse the installation. This is a level of security you do not get when downloading a .exe file or even a .deb from a random website on the internet. I know many of you come from the Windows world, where the instinct is to search download app name on Google and click the first link. And I understand why that's what you've always done. That's what feels natural. But in the Linux world, and generally in any modern system that has a centralized store or repository, that is exactly the wrong approach. Here are a few simple rules you should follow. First, keep your system updated regularly. Open the Update Manager, check what updates are available, and install them. If you don't want to do this manually, you can set up automatic updates for security patches. The Linux Mint team tests updates before pushing them to users, so the risk of breaking something with an update is minimal. Second, install software only from trusted sources. Your distribution's official repositories should always be your first choice. If an application is not available there, look on the project's official website, but make sure you carefully verify that it is truly the official site. Check the URL and look for signs of authenticity. Third, be skeptical of search results. Paid ads and aggressive SEO can push fake websites above official ones on Google or other search engines. Always verify the domain. Fourth, even if software is open source, that does not mean every source is safe. The application's source code may be harmless, but someone can take that code, add something malicious, compile a modified version, and distribute it from a fake website. You download Hypnotix, but you get Hypnotix plus a keylogger. The original code is clean. What ends up on your computer is not. Linux Mint has reminded us that security is not a product you buy once and forget about. It is a habit, an attitude, and a daily practice. Keep your system updated. Install software only from trusted sources. Be careful with the websites you visit when searching for applications. And if you are not sure whether a source is legitimate, check the Linux Mint community forums or the official website before downloading anything. The Linux Mint team does an excellent job maintaining a stable, secure, and user-friendly system. But security is a team effort, and you are part of that team. Thank you to all the channel members. Your support means a lot to me and helps keep the channel going. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more videos about Linux Mint. If you have any questions or want to add something to the discussion, write in the comments. See you in the next video.